Welcome to Market Access Today. Please get ready to be captivated by expert insights and explore new frontiers. Traditionally, I want to thank Econics for their unconditional support. Now let's get started. In today's industry talks, Kevin Kallmes will be with me. Welcome, Kevin. He's a serial entrepreneur, the CEO and the founder of Nested Knowledge, a company which is dedicated to gathering vital clinical outcome data using machine learning. Today, we are hosting him to provide more details about the Nested Knowledge software and perhaps share opinions or expected developments in the field of living evidence synthesis. But first, I want to give you the floor to tell us more about yourself and your career journey, please.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. This is definitely on my area of interest, and my background, I think, is quite unique in the market access space. Along with my brother and co-founder Keith Kalmes, in 2015, I founded a very small consultancy that focused around writing manuscripts and writing clinical protocols, clinical reports, and that's really what taught us about the medical research process. In doing so, we noticed a lot of gaps in the available technologies for gathering data from the literature, because whether it was for just background in a clinical protocol, or whether you're doing a full systematic review, we were effectively gathering data manually into Excel. So that taught us a lot about the needs, and it also taught us research processes. As we were growing in those roles, we also actually joined a company that spun a device out of the Mayo Clinic, and we drove that from prototype through to market. We got FDA clearance, we commercialized it, and we sold that company. So we sort of flipped it and saw it for everything from the other side. We had been consulting and helping others with their clinical protocols. We designed our own clinical study. We had been helping others understand, what is the potential clinical benefit or economic benefit of a therapy, and then we did it for ourselves as well. And so seeing it from both sides, as both a researcher and then as an executive in a medical device company, that's what really hammered home to me the needs in evidence synthesis. And as of 2018, that's what inspired us to found Nested Knowledge. And so I'm sure we're going to go a lot into what that means. But effectively, Nested Knowledge was intended to satisfy that exact gap in technologies for gathering evidence from the published literature or similar sources. And everything that we've built since then has effectively been an acceleration of that process.
Thank you for sharing your colorful and comprehensive work path with us. You seem to have a very busy schedule, and I wish you well as you face these heavy duties. My next question is about Nested Knowledge, as you guessed. Could you introduce us to the Nested Knowledge infrastructure, mainly explaining how it benefits stakeholders from a 360-degree perspective?
Absolutely. So Nested Knowledge is a living systematic review and evidence synthesis software with AI support at every stage. So if we think about the process of going from I have a research question to I have a data set that answers my questions and I can interpret it, Nested Knowledge is helping with every step along that way. So if you come in with that question, we help you build out a search strategy. There's an AI that suggests search terms until you feel like it's comprehensive. Then you can move forward, find the relevant records. Yet again, an AI can assist you in identifying key records based on learning from you. And then we have large language models to assist with extracting data from those relevant articles. So we go from the entire world of published literature down to your focus question, down to the articles that answer it, and then the evidence within them as well. And then I'd say that another thing that we're really excited about, or that we think differentiates us, is that we also do some automatic analytics on top of that we visualize for you. So you can get visuals of both the concepts and then also of quantitative statistics on top of all that data.
Thank you, Kevin. I would like to proceed to some use cases without losing pace. Could you please describe the capabilities of Nested Knowledge?
Absolutely. And I totally hear the discussion of use cases as well. We try to keep everything as generic as possible to research processes while still being helpful in specific things like I need to draft a submission to an HTA body. So capabilities, I think that the key at each stage in that process, if we divide it out and use those search and then screening of records, and then extraction of data as the crucial steps in any evidence synthesis project. At the search stage, we have a natural language processing algorithm where every time you put in a search term, we are going to go directly out to literature and we will bring back every study that may be relevant, and then we run natural language processing to identify any other terms of interest, usually in the PICOS framework. So I'm sure a lot of your viewers probably PICOS is the base of a lot of their research, but just for anyone who's following along, P is population, I and C are interventions and comparators, and O is outcomes. And our engine will give you the most common PICOS terms from within the body of literature that you've narrowed to. Then you narrow it again with those suggestions. You narrow it again with any further suggestions. You can keep on rerunning the AI as many times as you want, and then you get to a search strategy. Then at the screening stage, we have a machine learning algorithm. So we switch over from trying to extract text and exact concepts from studies to identifying which studies are of interest in general. So it's not just about the abstract content. It's also looking at metadata. It's looking at every piece of information that might give us clues to, hey, is this study relevant to your research? And we track what you exclude and what you include. And then as few as 50 studies can train our algorithm on whether studies should be in or out. And on that one, I actually have very good quantitative evidence on the capabilities of that machine learning algorithm. We actually published at ISPOR a validation study of about 20 systematic reviews with over 100,000 human decisions that also had an AI decision. And humans are I actually should say, at Nest Knowledge, we are very impressed with the expertise of researchers, right? We are actually depending upon it. We train on it. Like you are assisted only as much as your expertise assists you. But humans in our study were much better at excluding records when they should be excluded. So kicking out what was in fact irrelevant. But the AI was actually significantly better at identifying and saving includable records. So it's effectively a way to make sure you don't miss anything. That's, I'd say, the number one advantage of using our screening technology. But the thing that I'm most excited about, of course, that also is a major time savings, right? If you are able to effectively delegate a certain amount of your screening process to an AI, that's going to save you a lot of trawling. But the thing that I'm the most excited about in our technology, and I think that is most unique and novel, is a combination of two concepts. And that is, number one, hierarchies and ontologies, and number two, large language models for extraction. So I know that, of course, there's been a craze of jumping into the LLM, large language model space. We identified very early, as soon as GPT was available, that it actually had a lot of promise, not for making research conclusions as a whole. We worry about things like hallucination in those cases, but it's an extraordinary tool for giving it questions and then getting answers in the form of evidence instead of in the form of a drafted answer. However, there is one more wrinkle where if you don't give context and structural understanding to the large language model, it can be limited in what it gets out. So we have a combination of, number one, you build a hierarchy. So you might have the concept of population, and then underneath it, you would have your disease state, but you might have severity, you might have subgroups, and you want the large language model to extract all of those. But you have to contextualize it by putting it into that hierarchy. You do the same thing for your outcomes. You do the same thing for any of your any key data that you want to extract. That is then fed to the large language model. And with the hierarchical context, it can extract with a lot more precision what is the underlying text string, the exact quotation that matches what you're looking for. And so I know that's a very intensive description, but if we zoom out, we can use natural language processing to identify exactly what you want in your search, have an AI learn from you as you're screening, and at some point it can be delegated certain screening tasks, and then build out a custom hierarchy going from the most general concepts at the highest level all the way down to the specific data elements that you're looking for in your underlying studies. And that will all be brought together in our synthesis, where we will visualize each of those LLM extracted text segments. We will visualize your hierarchy. And if you proceed and want to do a meta-analysis, we'll even do meta-analytical statistics.
Great. Thank you so much. So for what can you use an Nest Knowledge?
So the main use case that we envisioned, right, when we came out from our research backgrounds, we were like, this is probably going to be used for published systematic reviews, right? That's going to be the main use. It's going to be an academic tool. But we learned very quickly that systematic review is used in far more places than just in publication, right? So if you're early in your clinical development program and you want to simply map out what is a target product profile and what are competitors and what is the treatable population, all of those are questions that you'd likely answer using systematic evidence from the literature. However, as you continue down that track, more and more evidence becomes available, especially as you have your phase 2 and your phase 3 trials. That's where you start to have comparative evidence between your own therapeutic and anything else that's on the market. So for effectively comparison directly against competitive therapies. But our number one use right now, and I think that this makes sense when you consider what is the highest use of evidence in healthcare decision making. It's about when to treat, right? And so that in a research for researchers, that usually happens in health economics and then of course in market access, right? That's where people are deciding what drugs or what devices are going to be used for what conditions. And so in that crucial stage, right, when we're moving from, okay, we have a therapy that we think might be useful to, this is going to be reimbursed for this use. That's the number one use case for nested knowledge right now, and I'm unsurprised that when we think about when is a data point going to be most useful for a decision maker, that is what comes up. But if we, again, zoom out and try to take that as a whole, we also are of the philosophy that you shouldn't wait until you're at that point, right? You're trying to submit for your HTA. You're probably a little late in starting your evidence synthesis process. It probably would have been helpful if you started all the way at that first stage when you're in R&D or in early phase studies. You can probably use that same evidence again and again and again and add to it as it emerges. So that is where we say it's not just use it for this one narrow purpose, and then that's an isolated data point that's used once. Instead, throughout the product lifecycle, you should be using that exact same set of data that you can constantly expand and customize to your uses.
That was great. So the next question is coming up as we just move a little bit further, which is who should use this tool?
Great question. And again, we originally thought this would be more of this is for researchers. But as AI has accelerated the process, we've also become aware that first of all, the tool can be much more rapid in giving you answers, as in just a 45-minute call with you, we could get from your disease state of interest and your therapy of interest all the way through to some preliminary AI outputs. And I think that expands it way beyond the systematic review researcher who has to spend weeks or months collecting this data. We're now talking about if you have a question that must be answered with more than one study, then you may be a potential nested knowledge user. I would divide that out and say that if you want to go to the full systematic review, you want to have full human confirmation of every piece of evidence, this is going into an HTA body, and you want to be extremely cautious about that. That's where the nested knowledge is an expert's tool for expert research. However, if we go to the other side of the spectrum and you're trying to answer questions rapidly with whatever evidence happens to be available, and you aren't even necessarily a systematic review expert yourself, we've built in a lot of the methods that would be used in a more intensive review, but where the AI is going to fully replace, right? So screen 50 studies, fully delegate to the AI. Build out your hierarchy and accept the AI's recommendations for extractions. That won't be what you want to submit to an HTA body, but if you're not a systematic review researcher and you still have questions, if you still have even a scoping question before you do your systematic review, if you want to understand what is out there in sort of approximate terms, get 80% of the studies and get 80% of their data, that is certainly also a use of nested knowledge. So we've started to think about it even in terms of when we help someone build a project, it's, okay, are you looking to do a systematic review or what we're now calling an AI rapid review? So something where I design it. It's fully designed by me toward my own goals, but where almost all the execution is done with AI.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kevin. So in fact, that brings us to the end of our interview today. So it has been an absolute pleasure having you with us. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you would like to add or any upcoming projects you would like to share? Doesn't necessarily have to be including nested knowledge, but still something related to AI. Would you like to share it with our audience?
Yeah, I actually have two things. And one of them is our future. And then the other one is the future of AI in research. And we think about these things a lot. So on what is coming next in nested knowledge, I get asked this all the time whenever people jump into the tool. It's always like, oh, will you be adding XYZ? And what is XYZ for the next 6 months? We are focusing heavily on adding not only AI extraction tools, but also tools to help with the design process itself. I said just earlier that if you and I sat down on a call and took 45 minutes, we could do an AI rapid review. But even that, I like to think we should have better communication between you and the software, better communication between you and the AI. So in the next couple of weeks, we should be launching an AI design tool that we call Core Smart Tags. It's effectively a system where if you bring a search or if you use our tools to get to a search, we will build out an AI hierarchy for you. So not only will the AI extract what you want, it will also assist you with building out the hierarchy in the first place. After that, and I know that alone should be a lot of work off your plate in terms of thinking through, hey, what am I actually even going to build into my review? After that, we're looking at sort of let's call them the aggressive targets or the ambitious targets in this space, which I think are number one, extracting quantitative data where you can jump straight from your question to that meta-analytical piece where the AI is also responsible for quantitative extraction. And then we're also thinking very carefully about should the AI also be allowed to give a generative answer? Because I know if you go to ChatGPT and you ask it, what is the best therapy for stroke, it will give you an answer and it will give you a generative answer. But we all have these concerns about hallucination. We have concerns that the AI is not actually practicing research the way we would like it to. But we are thinking about it in the narrow sphere of you have already run your search. You have already gotten to your articles of interest, and where you can actually ask the AI within this corpus of knowledge, not generally, not across the entire internet, but within this corpus of knowledge, can you help me with interpretation? And where we do our absolute best to cut off hallucination. So that is on our docket for long-term development. That is, I will say, a lot more. Let's call that our ambitious development goal over the next couple of years to get to the point where you have an AI research assistant that's not just an extraction assistant, it is also helping you with interpretation. With that, if I generalize it out to that, what about AI in general? I certainly see a lot of promise in market access for AI, even beyond these use cases, right? Find articles of interest, extract their data, and even interpret them. But we have been following very carefully what are going to be the standards, right, in the field for use of AI? When is it going to be considered acceptable? When is it going to be used in use cases where it's currently, expert driven? And we've been keeping ourselves to 3 core principles that I've discussed with a lot of customers, but also with a lot of, AI theorists and researchers. And I think that it's really important to get these ideas out there to anyone who's not only using AIs, but also if you're developing them. And we've really narrowed it down on 3 core concrete principles, all of them very actionable. This isn't like an AI ethics in general, will AI, take your job, or will AI take over the world, or any of those things. This is within the narrow scope of medical research. When is it appropriate? And we have really these 3 core principles. The first being data provenance, as in you can't just get an AI answer that's out of the air. Anything that is any use of AI in research, we think it's reasonable and appropriate for the AI to give the exact sources that it's pulling any data from. The second is just methodological transparency. If there's an AI involved in a medical research process, it should be disclosed just as openly as you would disclose an expert process. And the last one, and this is the one where we really can answer the question, will AI take your job? No, AI will be a tool for you to accelerate your own work. Our last principle is that any use of AI must have expert oversight. And that is still what we practice within the tool. That is what we will be doing in our future roadmap. That's what we will be advocating externally, because we know that when the questions are as important as they are in market access, and again, we're talking about, will this therapy be used? Will this therapy be reimbursed? Any question with that level of impact, we think that you need those 3 core principles of making sure the data that you bring in are fully sourced, the methods you use to get them are transparent, and that anything that an AI tool, including ours, is whenever a tool is used to pull in data or give a conclusion, that there has to be expert oversight of those final outputs. So hopefully that comes together and puts both the philosophy into action and the tools themselves into action in service of just better research.
Thank you for sharing that. We'll definitely keep eye on what's coming up with the new nested knowledge and in the area of AI. So I would like to once again thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to having you back on the show in the future.
Thank you so much. Great questions and looking forward to it.
Thank you very much. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Until next time, take care and stay curious.